Hi guys. I got a quick vid for you today. I don't have much time, but I just wanted to put this out there because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's usually not till after these people's schemes that you can really look back on what was done and see what their true motives and purpose was. And I feel like now that Trump's been out of office for a while and I've been able to reflect on how he was used, the demographics games that he was used to play. I feel like I have a real good intuition for how he was used and the real purpose of the Trump puppecy. And he was a puppet from day one. Anybody that thinks he was like anything but the tool, they all have corporate and banking hands crammed all the way up their asses into their mouths, and basically anything that these people say are just paid for by, sponsored by some corporate and banking or private entity. These presidents are totally powerless at this point. They're just figureheads for the American population to suck on their thumb and drool over. But the one thing I want to say about the real purpose of what Trump was used for, and the way I know that this is the case is because what you have to do is you have to go all the way back to when Trump first started his campaign. You have to look at who he was marketed towards, and it is blatantly obvious that from day one, Trump was being marketed toward he was the anti-establishment candidate. People that wanted change in the system. They wanted, and he was also the conspiracy theory candidate, and anybody that thought that there was corruption that needed to be weeded out of government to drain the swamp nonsense. He was marketed toward, and in my opinion, at that point in time, that was probably a small majority. It was probably like 60% of the population, maybe a little less, of people that were really could see the scam that was going on. And people that had issues with 9/11, and just he was marketed, and this is what's very telling about the Trump presidency is who he was marketed at the very beginning, and how he was used to demoralize and delegitimize that part of the population, the majority. And that to me is the true purpose of the Trump puppecy. He was used to demoralize and delegitimize anybody that had opposition to the complete government tyranny and corruption that we had then, but we even have more of now. And you can tell by like how he was used, like, because now you have the majority. I mean, my personal opinion is that he actually did win the popular vote, but number one, the popular vote don't mean a fucking thing. So I don't even know what the big to-do was after the election. Like pretending like to count votes in the states, like as if the vote counting actually, no one ever, especially for the presidency, that counting the votes is nonsense. It's all about the electoral votes, and those people do whatever they want to do. So like the whole charade that they fed the population for weeks and weeks and weeks was all about social engineering and psychological operation. And the way you can tell that it was all scripted farce is because months and months before the election even started, the media came in about the mail-in ballots and possible election fraud, and they were priming the population for the psyop that they were about to feed them. And because we never had any, like, what, all of a sudden mail-in ballots became a new thing, and it's just the whole thing was a staged farce, all the way up to the fake AstroTurf insurrection. I mean, it's just so ridiculous how stupid some of these people are that believe the media, what the media is telling them. But the one thing I want to say is that was the true purpose of the Trump presidency, was to demoralize and delegitimize the majority of the population. The majority, the 55 to 60% of the people that have had it with the corruption, they can see through all the bullshit. He was there to belittle them and make them have no voice, and make it so that even if they screamed even if 55% of the population were screaming the corruption and pointing at it and yelling at it, the other 45% would be who the media was showing. And that would cause a demoralization of the majority. And to me, that is the end goal of the Trump presidency. The reason for Trumpo the puppet was to demoralize and delegitimize the majority. And I'm talking about people who didn't even support Trump or didn't vote for either person. He was still used to delegitimize and demoralize those people because they're all thrown in with the anti-establishment conspiracy theorist crowd. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like, even if you didn't vote for Trump and knew he was a sham from day one, he was still used to stifle your voice and your opinion. And like anybody that's like the media, the whole media Trump dynamic was a scripted show from day one. The media did not hate Trump. Trump went along with every single one of their plans from day one. He was, I will say that I think I don't know if he would do it again if he had the chance to do it. Because he took a beating to his ego. And I'm wondering if he knew that's how this was going to go down beforehand or not. Or if he was just used, like, if they just completely used him as a fool, which to me is a good possibility, that they used him as like an egomaniac, easily controlled fool. Because in my opinion, our intelligence probably has so much dirt on Trump that this whole time he was only ever one phone call away from actually being impeached and really being made a fool of in front of the whole country. Like, to me, that's really how he was controlled, in my opinion. I think that he was talked into this probably early on, didn't really think it through completely. His ego took over, and he was probably just... And then after he got in, I think these people really did a number on him. And he realized that he really had no power and just had to go along with whatever these people did. And he did it, of course, because he's an ego fucking maniac. But, I mean, I'd be real curious to know, like, I wouldn't mind having a private conversation with Trumpo at this point, to be honest, because I'm sure he's got a lot to say in private company about what went down that nobody will ever hear. But to me, I think that the main purpose of the Trump presidency was to fully and completely demoralize and delegitimize the majority, the small majority, 55 to 60% of the population, and make it so that they'd be so embarrassed to even say anything that they would just keep their mouth shut and go along with any tyranny that these scumbags want to push on us. And to me, that's where we're at now, because I see it with my own family members who were stupid enough to support Trump, that they thought he was going to save the country. It's almost like now they had so much to say when they thought Trump was going to save the country. But now, because they connected their salvation basically with Trump saving them, now they can't even say anything. And I mean, it's pretty interesting to watch now, because he really was used to silence the majority and get them to just sit tight in their embarrassment and just go along with all this tyranny these people are pushing. So that's just a quick vid I had. I'd be interested to know if anybody else has any opinions on this. But take care, guys. Stay safe.